What's up, guys? Just a quick footnote before we kick off this week's show. If you're looking for a longer show to listen to your commute to work today, go back to the previous episode and listen to the Joe Fu episode. That is about an hour. I released that 1 hour episode because I just thought it would be better to get it recorded and out just to keep up with current news. If you're looking for something a little bit different, go back to the Dr. David Love episode. I've had a lot of really cool feedback on this episode, that it's refreshing, it's different, it's not what we normally do. So if you want something a little bit different to the You Can't Comp This shtick, go and definitely check that out. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for listening, and on to today's show. Everyone, welcome to the show again. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining. We're just going to go through some of the trades that have happened since the Joe Fu episode. So let's kick off here with Jaden Hardy being sent to the Lakers with 2 second-round picks in 31 and 32. While you might think that those picks are not a lot of value, actually I think for the Lakers that's going to be really important moving into the future to get some cheap players onto their roster, because they've essentially traded away all of their first-round picks. Obviously things can change in an instant, so don't get too excited about that, and they'll be able to get more picks in the future if they want to. But as it currently stands here now, those picks for the Lakers are going to be really important. I think that this trade is more about getting rid of DeAndre Ayton, and he now goes off to the Washington Wizards. And so the Washington Wizards now are absolutely stacked in their front court. First off, though, is just go through DeAndre Ayton's hobby value. Population on his silver PSA 10 is 1,610. Price on this is $14.50. And whilst I personally think this is horribly undervalued, and in some ways it's a little bit of an insult to Ayton, I think this says a lot about collecting and buying into people when hype is involved. And I also think it says a lot about buying into big guys is very much a buyer beware thing for me now, with the obvious exceptions of Nikola Jokic, Cooper Flagg, Kareem, all those, really big names. Either you sort of go big and you go large with centers, or you just stay away with it altogether. And I think this is the perfect example of it. So peak DeAndre Ayton sold for $543, $564. It actually looks to me like there's a sale above $600 here. And as you can see now here, it's trading in that sort of $10 range there. So I think this is actually a fantastic story for the hobby, is that big guys are just very perilous to buy into. So let's quickly have a look at the Washington Wizards roster here, because these guys are stacked up front. DeAndre Ayton, Justin Champagnie, Anthony Davis up front. There is a rumor that he's going to be traded. AJ Demonista obviously came into them through the draft. Keyshawn George is going to be wanting some court time. Alex Saad, which they picked up just 2 drafts ago. Cam Whitmore there too. So somebody is going to feel the pinch in terms of the rotation minutes. And if Anthony Davis isn't traded away, I probably think the person who's going to miss out on minutes is going to be DeAndre Ayton, because Alex Saad is a very mobile big man who can defend. And I think actually offensively, he made a lot of strides last year, just in terms of skill. I don't think he's like a go-to player or anything like that, but he's going to be a lot more reliable as his career goes on. And he's just 21 years of age. So I still think there's a lot of potential there for him to be a usable and serviceable big guy that's not just a defensive stopper. Why don't we actually have a look at Jaden Hardy? Because this is actually somebody who I don't think has a lot of value. But at the same time, let's just have a quick look. So his silver rookie PSA 10 card is trading for $33. I think that type of price is either PC only, or if you think you know something that everybody else doesn't know, then absolutely go nuts and invest heaps into these. But yeah, these are cheap as chips. Look at this. One actually sold for $3.50 recently on his silver rookie card. So yeah, this is a pretty low key. But at the same time too, if this fits into your budget and you think this is fun and you want to follow this guy's journey on the Lakers, that's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but definitely a little bit of risk around that. Rockets and Hornets have also made a trade here. Dorian Finney-Smith is being sent to the Charlotte Hornets and 3 second-round picks. And in return, the Rockets get a $13 million trade exception. I get it. You have to manage your finances and you have to manage all that type of stuff. 100% no troubles with that. But at the same time, I think Dorian Finney-Smith is absolutely what you need in today's NBA. He's a 3-and-D player. He doesn't need sets run from him. He just goes out and plays. I can understand why you would maybe want to move away from him, because he is not the cheapest role player you could probably get your hands onto. So 25-26, he was paid $12 million. In 26-27, he's going to be paid nearly $13.5 million. 13.3 the year after that, and then he's got a player option for the year after that at 13.3. And look, as the cap goes, that's actually not a terrible contract, and as you can see, he's been moved on, so that's clearly a sign that it's not the worst contract ever. I think that's a fantastic pickup there for the Hornets, because they need reliable guys to be filling out their roster, and he's an absolute pro and somebody that can really play well. On July the 1st, we had another trade here. AJ Johnson was sent to the Memphis Grizzlies, and a 2030 protected first-round pick and 2 future second-round picks. The Dallas Mavericks in return get Santi Aldama. In terms of talent being moved around here, I like this for both teams. I think this is a fantastic pickup for AJ Johnson. Obviously, they've got point guard minutes that are going to need to be filled. And for the Dallas Mavericks, they get a big, versatile shooting forward or center if you want to play a little bit small in Santi Aldama. I've got no troubles with that absolutely at all. I actually prefer this trade for Memphis because I think AJ Johnson is a good prospect, and I think the 2030 first round pick and also the 2 second round picks is fantastic. So again, I think Memphis have done a really good job the last couple of years of picking up overs when it comes to draft compensation long term. This is not a Oklahoma City type scenario, but we know how this plays out, don't we? Draft compensation is really important. Building a good team that's financially viable, but also being able to package those into future deals. So I love this for Memphis a lot. I'd actually like to spend just a couple of minutes on AJ Johnson. In terms of hobby value for Santi Aldama, there's nothing really there that we can talk about. However, AJ Johnson, I really like this kid in terms of low-key, potential, sleeper, prospect type person. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about guns blazing or anything like that. This sold for $51 on his silver PSA 10. This is actually from Prism Black, but it's still a rookie card, so we'll just go with that. Population on this is 3. Card Ladder actually values this at $62, so there's $10 of built-in value on that there for you. Here we go, AJ Johnson 2024 Prism. Value on that is $39, and the Card Ladder value again is coming back at $48. Population on this is super low at 10. I like this. I actually really like this as a flyer. I think that a sub $100 flyer, I would really like to see you better pick one up for a little bit cheaper. There is not a lot of sales on these at all. So maybe that's the going price, is because there's so few of them. There's not a heap going out there sort of circulating them. But if you could pick one up, in a trade or something like that on the cheaper side, I think that's a fun one to put away. I like this kid's talent. I hope that he finds some good rotational minutes in Memphis. I would really like to see that. And we probably should have started the show with this. Paul George goes to Boston. A 28 first round pick could convert to a pick swap. A 2031 first round pick unprotected. And 2028 and 2030 second round picks. Philadelphia gets Jaylen Brown. In terms of giving this a rating for each team, I give this A++ to Philadelphia. I think getting the best player in the trade is always a really important thing to do. And getting Jaylen Brown, which was the finals MVP not that long ago, in the top 6 of MVP voting last year, essentially rescuing this roster, because I think Paul George was a terrible contract. I think that combined with Embiid's contract was just weighing that roster down, weighing that team down, and to flip that into Jaylen Brown, someone that actually can uplift and do fantastic things with this team. Like, I think he's going to fit in with this team really, really well. And for that to play out in that way, it's just huge. So I can't give this high enough grade. I would give this a 10 pluses if I could. The naysayers on this trade will say that, well, you gave up a lot of draft equity on that. But at the same time, if you're a good competitive team, the value on those first round picks becomes less and less. So I actually have no dramas with this at all on any perspective. So it's really a weird one for me for Boston, because I think one of two things has happened here. I don't think this is a basketball talent issue. So I think we can just completely disregard that. This is either a personality thing, and he has been a little bit of a weird dude. He's been on social media at events getting kicked out and trying to negotiate with people in public and on live stream to get back into events. He's been on Twitch and Kick and doing interviews with people and saying a whole bunch of outlandish stuff. Maybe his teammates didn't like that. I actually wonder if this was a personality thing between him and Jason Tatum, and there has been some rumors around that, although nothing obviously has been confirmed. The other thing, and the second part of this, which is probably what I more want to talk about, is the potential that the private equity group that purchased this team wanted to have the team more financially viable. So in terms of saving this team money, obviously first round picks are a really financially good way to manage your team salary cap, but also too, there's less years on the contract of Paul George versus Jaylen Brown. And if this is a private equity decision where they've come in and broken up this championship core, which never really got to defend their championship because Jason Tatum got injured with that terrible Achilles injury, I actually fear for the future of the league in that sense, because I think more and more people are going to come in with private equity groups and buy up teams. Maybe not become the majority ownership like what we have in Boston, but maybe they own 40%, maybe they own 30, 25%. And how much of that private equity money would then influence basketball decisions, moving it away from basketball decisions and making them financial decisions? That actually scares me a little bit, because I don't think that's great for the league. It's terrible for the league and for the Boston Celtics to break up this core prematurely, because the dream is that you have a young team that can continuously, year after year, compete for a championship. And the Celtics had that. So moving away from that, for me, is not what you ever want to see. And I don't like this for Boston at all. I give this an F+ at best, or an F-. That's probably the better way to do it. I think from the hobby perspective, I think you know where I'm going to go with this. Jaylen Brown, I've been saying this for years. This guy is hideously undervalued, and I love this guy as a hobby purchase. Let's have a look at his silver card, because I know the population on this is way lower than what the base card is. So there is 313 cards of this in total on the PSA 10 silver. It last sold for $400, which is about 600 Australian dollars. I love this so much. There's not many people where they get traded sideways and I froth over this for their card value, because I actually think he's going to be loved in Philadelphia. I think the Philadelphia fan base is a diehard, rabid, sometimes unreasonable fan base that, say terrible things to players and behave terribly. However, they also love people who compete, they work hard, they defend. And so I think he's going to fit in Philadelphia really well. I also think too that there's a weird sort of hobby void in Philadelphia where they've had Embiid, who was an MVP, but no one's really put heaps of money into him. And so I actually think this is going to be good for Jaylen Brown's value. Do I think this is going to be an $800 or $1,000 card? Look, probably not. Maybe it goes to $500, $600. I think that would be a really good outcome for that scenario there. I'm going to give this a really high grade in terms of picking up this card. I'm going to give this a B or a B+. I think Jaylen Brown is still underrated and undervalued around the league. If you think our content is worthwhile and you enjoy it, you can support us by heading to your favorite podcast platform, opening any of our episodes and clicking support the show to make a one-off or ongoing contribution. If funds are a bit tight and you'd still like to support the show, you can help us out by following, liking, or subscribing on our social platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Just search for You Can't Comp This. And don't forget to turn on auto downloads on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you to Neon Trading Cards for your ongoing support. Head to neontradingcards.com, where you'll find a huge array of breaks: soccer, NBA, MLB, F1, AFL, NRL, WWE, and Marvel. Find Neon Trading Cards on Whatnot. Neon is the exclusive home of Lucky Card Co. Repack products, Australia's leading multi-sport repack company. Neon is also a Topps and Fanatics direct breaking partner. This week on Neon's Whatnot platform, the boys are ripping a heap of product. NFL, soccer for the World Cup. If you've been watching more World Cup and you want to dabble into some breaks, they've got UEFA Club Competition Chrome Value Box Up, UEFA Club Competition Chrome Mega Box Break, and also a full Bundesliga Chrome Breakers Delight full case. Huge breaks there for soccer. MLB, UFC, of course NBA. The lads have got it all. Neon have just launched their official second channel, Neon Trading Cards Plus. On the Plus channel, soccer, MLB, F1, AFL, NRL, WWE, UFC, and Marvel will be featured. Meanwhile, the main Neon Whatnot channel will run NBA breaks and the Lucky Cardco repacks. Get in, get ripping, and don't miss out. Neon is where the action is. And the last card that we're going to talk about here is Walker Kessler getting traded to the Lakers, and then the Utah Jazz getting back unprotected first round picks in 2031 and 2033, first round swaps in 2028 and 2030. Okay, so this is the ultimate. The Lakers desperately needed a big man and they had to overpay to get it. Walker Kessler wasn't getting the money from the Jazz. The Jazz wanted to move off from him, and we all know what Danny Ainge loves more than anything is future draft compensation, and they got this in absolute spades. So the terms of what the teams needed and what the terms wanted, both teams won here. I've got no problems with this at all. My issue with this is that the overpay. Why couldn't 2 picks be enough for Walker Kessler? Why was 4 picks needed to get this done? Because who are they really competing against in this space? And I feel like we see this year in, year out. People become available. I understand the idea of continuity and you want to build something and have people in place, like that's all fine. But to pay 4 first round picks for that, I personally think that's a really, really high price. And so I hope this doesn't come back to bite the Lakers, because I would like this team to succeed. I would like to see Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and Walker Kessler just do really well together. So I hope this goes really well, but I just think this is an absolute overpay, despite the fantastic roster fit, what we've got here. Walker Kessler, silver PSA 10 rookie card, sold on best offer for $68. I think that's about what you want to pay for this guy. I think there is going to be an LA kick on this. I think he's going to see some popularity rise on it, but I think that the rise will be short term. I don't think this is somebody who you want to put a whole bunch of money into. I would look at if you want to spend $68 or you want to spend $80, I would look for other cards in that $80 price range. I would be very careful buying into this guy. On the other hand, if you're holding a whole bunch of Walker Kessler, start getting your cards ready to sell in the next 2 to 3 months. There's going to be interest in this guy. There's going to be an uptick on this. Absolutely. This is going to be good for people who are already holding Walker Kessler cards. So good news on that. Thank you to US Sports Cards Australia for your ongoing love and support of our podcast. We cannot thank you enough. Go to ussportscardsaustralia.com.au. There you'll find sealed product, breaks, card protection, and of course Ross's water pistols. Also, go onto the website, click on the 3 little noodles, click on singles category, and there you'll find NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL, WNBA, soccer, TCG, heaps and heaps of different singles on there. Ross is building his consignment service. You can submit your cards on there. All You Can't Cop This listeners will receive a discounted submission. Just write You Can't Comp This onto your submission form. Let's check out what's for sale on the website at the moment. I've clicked on NBA and singles, and I found a Wemby rookie card for sub $10 AUD. It is the Mosaic Basketball Victor Wembanyama card for $9.60. Keep up the great work, Ross, and thank you to US Sports Cards for your ongoing love and support. Alrighty, let's go to a listener question or a listener statement. So this is from Brad_hypnotized on Instagram. Get on, follow this guy's account, give him some love and support, give him some likes, share some of his content. Basically what Brad is being messaging me about is Topps LeBron James cards. So first year Topps Chrome, last year LeBron James in his uniform, and Brad thinks these are fantastic buys. And I'm going to agree with him on this 100%. Let's go through some examples of this. And also let's read through Brad's messages. Last Lakers uniform, low serial number, first Topps Chrome, potentially retirement, documentaries coming out. I feel a lot of Bron is going to blow up in the next 2 years. And Brad, I cannot agree with you more, mate. I think you are absolutely onto something. Let's go to Card Ladder. Let's just see some of the last sales of LeBron James on here. Chrome Serenity Ray Wave LeBron James PSA 10 for $124 US. Fantastic. Topps Living LeBron James PSA 8 that sold for $12. I did recently a budget show where I was doing $5 and $10. If I had have seen this, I would have chucked into that. Absolutely. This is my favorite one so far, though. Bowman Blue, number to 150 for $35. Getting a numbered LeBron James card for about 50 Aussie dollars is absolutely fantastic. That is a home run, no doubt there. LeBron James Insomnia Winter Solstice PSA 9 number to 35 for $165. You've got to be joking me. Like, in terms of a long-term hold, just buy this card for $160, put it away. Like, we've seen what's happened with Jordan, Kobe inserts, the whole rest of it, right? Are you on a budget? You want to pick up something a little bit cheaper? 8-bit ballers for $1.50. I personally like that insert. I know everyone that's generally not liked, but that's totally fine. 25-26 Bowman Chrome LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers Young Kings Gold number to 50. That is a sick, beautiful looking card. It's ripping off Mosaic, but I love Mosaic personally. That's sold for $325. That's not really something you would call budget, but at the same time, I think that's just such a beautiful card. That's why it's gone for so much. Man, that's a banger. That's just like a piece of art on your desk, isn't it? Topps Bowman Chrome, Lakers Purple, numbered to 199. This sold for 51 USD. Again, fantastic. That's great. Alrighty, let's just check out some more news that we found on Twitter. We've got here from @the27guy, LeBron James at $2,562,000. Even if this doesn't get another bid, it'll be the single biggest LeBron auction ever. 2003-2004 Exquisite Collection, Rookie Parallel, Vertical Patch Autograph, 9 out of 23 on this one here. Alrighty, we do have a final bid on this. This finished at $2,928,000 US. So not that much more than what previously Adam had been talking about, but still huge. And look, it's never made sense to me, the huge gap that we've seen between LeBron and other athletes. And I think that this gap is going to change over the next couple of years. And I think we can tie this back into what Brad was saying. Moving towards the end of his career, maybe he's going to be retiring. He's going to have a documentary coming out. I think there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on LeBron James moving forward, to be honest. I think buying up LeBron at the moment is just not a silly play at all. More NBA news here. The Sacramento Kings are trading Devin Carter and a future second-round pick to the Atlanta Hawks. I actually think we've already spoken about this on the show, so we won't talk about this too much. I think what we do need to do, though, is have a look at the Sacramento Kings salary cap, because why on earth would you trade away Devin Carter, who was just recently drafted to your team? And here is the answer here. $47 million on Zach LaVine, $42 million on Domantas Sabonis, $25 million on DeMar DeRozan, $24 million on DeAndre Hunter, $20 million on Malik Monk, and $24 million on Keegan Murray. That is just an absolute recipe for disaster, isn't it? And actually, he's not as young as you think he would be. So Devin Carter is already 24 years of age. He's going into his third year as a pro. If he's already hit the peak of his career and you could save $50 million moving him on, is there much really more to talk about that? Silver PSA 10 of Devin Carter is selling for $33 and $50. I'm not too sure I'm all about this, boys. He's very, very variable. $20, $30, $22, $50, $8.85 for a silver mosaic. Look, if this is your PC and you're picking this guy up for $20 or $30, that's totally fine. But look, Atlanta has been very good for people in terms of getting their maximum potential out of them. But I really think the issue with the Atlanta Hawks is their depth chart, because at guard, I think he's going to struggle to get minutes, honestly. CJ McCollum, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was fantastic last year, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Okongwu. I don't think anyone's really moving out of that. Kingston Flemings as their backup point guard, Corey Kispert at shooting guard, Aaron Wiggins at small forward and power forward, and Jock Landale at center. Risha Shares hasn't been mentioned yet. Maybe Carter will get in as, say, the backup point guard or the backup shooting guard. But he'll be fighting for minutes there. I don't think that's a sure thing. I think buying heavily into him is going to be, fraught with danger. And the last thing we're going to talk about on today's show is this Tim Duncan card that sold. 1997 Flair Showcase, Tim Duncan, row 1, Masterpiece 1 of 1. This sold huge, $427,000. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is the highest Tim Duncan card ever sold. In my opinion, Duncan is the most it's the most expensive card by $160,000. Read through the comments and a few other posts around this card. This is not so much about that it's Tim Duncan, it's more this card itself. And so people are buying this card because of the scarcity of it. It's how hard this card is actually to obtain and acquire. And so this is more for people who are very long-term collectors, very niche in the hobby, and obviously who've got very deep pockets who go out and purchase these cards. And I also wonder too if that this is a very, very difficult card to obtain, and in some ways it became easier because it was Tim Duncan. Because if this was Kobe Bryant, if this was Shaquille O'Neal, if this was someone else in the checklist, row 0 checklist. All right, okay, this is actually a big checklist. Michael Jordan, Grant Hill, Allen Iverson, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Sean Kemp, Shaquille O'Neal, Antoine Walker, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Damon Stoudemire, Anthony Hardaway, Dennis Rodman. That would go for crazy money. Scottie Pippen, Kobe Bryant. There's a heap of names here. I'm not going to read them all out. Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Eddie Jones, the big dog Glenn Robinson. Isaac Austin got in this. That's amazing. Dikembe Mutombo, Clyde Drexler, which is actually misspelt, Chris Mullin, Tim Hardaway, which is also misspelt, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, Tom Gugliotta. He was my boy on NBA Live. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'm going to tie this off here. Thank you so much, everybody who did tune in and listen to this week's show. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and we will catch you for the next episode.